Okay, good evening, everyone. Let's begin tonight's Northwest Communications Union District Governing Board meeting. It is March 23rd at m. To begin tonight's meeting, we will, are there any adjustments to the agenda that need to be made? Any additions? Emily, let's plug in, I can just bring it up under other business as well, but let's mark it down. Readdressing subcommittees. Needs to get
For
added.
sure.
We can do that in place of public service because Rob's not here. I need a motion to accept that change from someone.
Motion to accept the change
Second.
that Sean just made.
Motion to accept agenda change, adding in addressing the subcommittees made by Mary Kay. Seconded by Ken. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Ken says aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Roll call. Sean Caio, Chair and Representative for Enosburg. Ken?
Ken Millman, Alberg.
Brenda? Brenda?
We see you talking, but you're muted.
Can't hear you, Brenda. We'll come back. We'll come back to you. Dave?
Hey, Dave Stanley, Fairfax.
Sharon? Mary Kay?
Mary Kay, the other Fairfax.
Everett?
Everett McGinley, Montgomery.
Tara?
I'm here, Georgia.
Brenda, we got you? Still no mic. We see her. Brenda Churchill from Bakersfield is also joining us, and Sharon Fregard from Richford.
Ford.
Sorry. And we have a caller. I'm not sure who's calling in. Don't recognize the number. That's all right. We can continue on. We need to approve our minutes from last meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review? Any changes need to be made? If there being none, I'll accept a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve last meeting's minutes made by Everett, seconded by Mary Kay. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Approved. Treasurer's report. Emily.
Yep, pulling that up now.
Hey, Stu.
All right, treasurer's report, no real changes from the last treasurer's report. There's still $58,185.65 in the CUD bank account. We still have outstanding bills because as far as I'm aware, the legislature has still not approved the extension to the COVID planning grant. I don't believe again that there's any issue with that. It's just gotten held up. I believe it's moving its way through. Then that leaves with $32,538.64 in the COVID planning grant, and $24,857.52 in the Vermont Community Foundation grant. That is the current state of the bank account. That's right.
We had no transactions in the last month. I don't believe so.
In the last 2 weeks, no.
Outside of Google, right?
Yeah, Google went in and we approved that last meeting.
Okay.
Nothing since then.
Okay. Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report made by Mary Kay, seconded by Ken. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Moving on, USDA Rural Business Development Grant. Back to you,
Great.
Emily.
Yes, so we are moving forward with applying for the USDA Rural Business Development Grant. We've received some letters of support so far. I totaled it up and I think we should be able to say 8 or 9 full-time jobs, which is a good number, but definitely if you are able to still get a letter of support, I can still take them. And what's really important is that they have that component that says X number of jobs will be saved or created, and it can be saved. So it might just be the existing jobs that they have that they believe they need internet to continue to function. And that's definitely really important. See Heather in the waiting room. Other than that, continuing to work on the grant application. Again, it will be for $30,000 roughly for a consultant to do broadband planning, specifically around the open access fiber and business planning. At the end of the agenda today is executive session for the CUD to discuss whether they want to pre-select a consultant or go through an RFP process if awarded the grant. And that's at the end because it just is easier for members of the public attending to not have to shift everyone off and back on. But one thing that does need to also happen is the board will need to approve the resolution to apply for the grant. So this draft resolution essentially says that the CUD is authorizing applying for the grant and authorizes Sean Kyo to sign all the grant documents. And then rather than have to send it around to everyone for sign, I just have it set up that as in a test line. That's why Sean Coleman's name is on here. So that will be something that needs a motion on, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the grant.
Any questions? If there are none, we'll accept a motion to adopt the resolution to apply for the USDA Rural Business Development Grant.
So moved.
Dave
Second.
Stanley, second.
Motion made by Everett, seconded by Dave Stanley. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Unanimous.
No, but I am going to do a video, an audio check. Is this better?
Hey, there's Brenda.
Yes.
Yay.
You're back.
Brenda's back.
Plugging it in the right one is the best best.
I had my phone earbuds in a meeting the other day instead of my computer earbuds. It's a different jack, and it took me like 10 minutes to figure that out.
I get it. I have Bluetooth headset and a connected headset, so sometimes I sound like I'm in another room. I go, hang on. It's because my other headset's on. We all have the headset issues.
Move on to legislative update. Sean, I've been loosely following it, but I have not had the time to dedicate to really dig into it. I know you've spent a lot more time paying attention to what's happening.
I was the last up to the last meeting, and then I haven't I didn't really have much time this past week to focus on it so much. It sounded like Mary Kay, I think, was focusing, maybe Brenda too, if I recall. At the last meeting they were kind of paying more attention.
Okay.
And Emily, I don't know if you've been hovering around with the
Yeah.
latest bill reiteration of the bill.
I've not been paying really close attention to the exact language of the H360, the broadband bill. I do know it's up, I think, Thursday to vote in
Right.
the House. And then it will probably get passed over to the Senate, and it seems like it's pretty favorable to pass from my understanding. And then in terms of the federal side, that municipalities are all getting, I think, expected 75% of their annual budget directly as from the stimulus, and that broadband is an eligible expense. That's all we know at this point. There's not a lot of detail, but they have until 2024 to decide how they want to spend that money. So the good news is there's not that really tight 1-year timeline on it. They have some more time to figure out what they need to do, and for broadband, there's more time to actually do a project if that's.
Yeah, the House bill has earmarked $150 million for broadband.
Right.
And it's not clear where the money goes. And, if it goes to the towns, what does that mean for the CUDs versus if it goes directly to the CUDs? So there's a lot of questions.
I know that the Vermont League of Cities and Towns is advising municipalities to not give the money out until they're sure that different organizations cannot get it from the state through other means.
Correct. There's other people out there besides the CUDs that are trying to earmark those dollars.
Yeah, and I think that there is going to be a lot of interest from a lot of different entities with the municipalities, with knowing that they're getting that money in from various consulting groups.
Yeah, we're putting out that regional planning is going to put out a letter to the local leadership to let them know that there isn't a hurry. There's no reason to hurry up and rush to spend the money because there is no timeline right now. And we do know, in fact, that there are some consultants already reaching out to municipalities, I think in advance, kind of fishing around for seeing if they can access some of the funding. So we definitely want to get the word out. Like there's no need to go under contract with anybody immediately. Like do some careful planning first, do some feasibility study first, what you want to accomplish, especially for the more rural towns that don't have the staff or the capacity to deal with it and just can't keep up with the bill. The latest bill that's in the legislature too, I don't know who is on the VCUDA email threads, but they're like Sean and I were talking about earlier this week, like you need almost a full-time job to keep up with everything that's been going on. It is a full-time job. And this is really where a program manager would be ideal, who can track this stuff, but who has the time to track this stuff. Because it constant changes, constant updates the past month, especially the past couple of weeks. And I don't know, again, like I was forwarding some of the VCUDA emails to folks just to kind of give them an idea. But honest to God, after the last one I sent, there were probably 12 more that came in that night. So I just stopped because I don't want to give everybody information to overload. And by the time I write a summary of what everything's being discussed, it's already changed. So.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I get it. It's my world in a lot of ways, so
yeah.
I get it. It's what I live.
Right. So I just didn't want to, overload everybody with.
And I did reply. I think I replied all. I don't know because my Gmail is gone now. That to you, Sean, with the other person who is in the state, another competitor consultant business trying to earmark the broadband dollars. I sent that out as well to you guys when I saw that, the Tilson. And they're working with a Vermont Electric Co-op and
Tilson, right? Yeah, the antenna company.
Yes,
right?
I actually know that whole team, so I can see what they're trying to do and what they're trying to penetrate.
Yeah.
And they definitely have the program management resources to do that kind of stuff. So that would be huge for them. So, and bad for us.
Right. We just want to make sure everybody does the the work up front, the planning for the money's
absolutely
used wisely.
Agreed.
Mr. Chair, can I interrupt for a second with an update from today's Steve Whitaker?
Say that again. Can you identify the caller?
Steve Whitaker.
Go ahead, Steve.
They approved on the House floor the second reading and voted to have a third reading, but there was an amendment made by half a dozen members, Republicans, Democrats, and progressives, to remove, I'm quoting, however, the public members may not be persons with a financial interest in or owners, employees, or members of a governing board of an internet service provider or a communications union district. So the board of the broadband authority, as the bill passed second reading today, will not have a CUD representation on it. I thought that was relevant to bring to your attention.
Yep. Thank you for that insight. Anything else on legislative update? I mean, every day it changes.
Yeah, exactly.
We're continuing to do our best to stay on top of things and read the volley of emails that come every day.
Where does public service stand in this? Are they advocating for a CUD solution or a open solution, or do we know where they stand?
I would say it depends on who you talk to, Everett.
I am not going to speak for the Public Service
Right.
Department.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way, Sean. Yeah, it's difficult. It's I'm sure they're, from their standpoint, they're in a difficult position, and I don't think they can really make that recommendation or determination either. Yep.
Ask Rob Fish.
Yeah.
Directly.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah. Anything else on legislative update?
Well, I was just going to ask, not legislative update, but before my mind forgets, that is the Rob Fish that was giving the information out. I had this email from Dustin Lee. Is that somebody y'all are familiar with? Okay, okay, because
Yes.
I met. He didn't give us much notice. It's like 12 hours, and then
No notice, and they're in town this week.
I know, that's what he said. I was like panicking. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so. So I kind of got, thrown out of the water with that, but I assumed, because he referred to Rob Fish, that it was legit and that I wasn't getting suckered into something. Apparently I just accept everybody's invites and I'll go to their meeting if it sounds legit enough. But but I saw that he had referenced Rob Fish in there. So what is that about? Can you explain more to me about that? Like what gone on? Sorry.
Yeah, the group it's a non-profit. We had sent out some information around the year. I think that Rob had about the group, that they had funding available to help with Wi-Fi, and the state may or may not be partnering with them to help fill all the spots that the state couldn't provide. The second round of Wi-Fi spots that went around in municipalities. And then literally, then we didn't hear anything about it. It's a nonprofit company. I have no idea where they get their funding, but they've been vetted by public service. I got asked to go to a meeting about 30 minutes before the meeting with Highgate last Thursday, and we met with I think it was Dustin was the lead for the company. Very knowledgeable, super friendly, very helpful. Said they're going to be in town. Or in the state, starting in the southern end of the state, working their way north, starting this week, but he wasn't sure exactly what day or when they were going to be in the area. And in talking to him, he said, and I don't know if Randy Connolly was going to follow up with him. I don't know if Randy's on the call or not, or on the meeting tonight, but I don't see him. But Dustin asked me if you know of other municipalities, or if you're with the CUD, if you could just give everybody a shout out. If they have any other additional Wi-Fi spots that they're interested in, let me know. The only town I heard back from was Swanton town. I spoke with David Jeskovich, the town administrator, yesterday about it. They're not sure if they're not really sure where if they want to pursue it or not.
It's like the last program, right? Because
Correct.
It's free, right? So
Free
what-
equipment, yes. They do the install and the equipment. I think it's the same equipment that the state was installing as well, if I recall. Part of their Wi-Fi program. I think it's the same equipment. So they do the install, and then the municipalities or whoever is responsible for the actual service.
okay.
That was,
Pop-
that was the ask from PSD, is that they use the same Cisco Meraki equipment.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Cisco.
Yep,
And
so it all ties together.
These people have to, the people who, like if it's, we got thrown out the idea of the Bakersfield Country Club. So the only thing that they would have to worry about is the cost that they already have anyway. So it's not like an additional cost unless they want to up their service.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm sure they'll love that up there, the country club. It'll make their phones work better too. Maybe they won't walk that. Then the spouses will be able to get a hold of them at any time.
To be clear,
Now that's funny.
I don't have a spouse, and that's why I go to Bakersfield and golf, because I don't have cell service.
Not now, Mary Kay. Sorry.
As far as everybody down here knows, there is no service.
That's right. We just won't spread the news. It's just our secret up here amongst the town. I won't tell you coworkers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I sent the email out to, I think I sent it to Vacuda. I mean, not Vacuda, this Northwest CUD. I think I did. And I sent it to all the town managers, administrators, all my municipal contacts. And like I said, I think in the email, Dustin said, just call him and he'll get you on the list. He has a list of extra people that the municipalities that had requested Wi-Fi hotspots that they couldn't fund. So he's working off that list and trying to make the connections with folks. And I think because it's like drop everything because Dustin wants to meet in 20 minutes, I don't know how much success he's having.
I know that really did surprise me because at first I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know where we currently stand with Lemoyne. I know there were some loose discussions. Those discussions, unfortunately, were happening almost exclusively with Leia, who we lost. So we likely need to re-engage Lemoyne on with on kind of where they stand. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sean or Emily, you have additional information there.
They and Lemoyle hired Christine
Christine.
Hallquist, right, or project manager or whatever, to oversee. That's about the extent that I know.
Okay, I can reach
I
out.
don't know if Emily has any. Do you know anything more?
Yeah, I can reach out to. I know that they had some discussions about whether it's a simple MOU or if it was going to be something more formal in terms of a possible merger or what have you. And I know that they had, just like we did, loose together with them either. But I'll call Christine and see if we can start these chats.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk to Tasha Wallace, the executive director of Mile Regional 2. I can ask her what's their path forward.
And Vacuda, Sean filled me in on some of the board's discussions on Vacuda. I feel more comfortable at this point with it. I know early on there was some conflict and different ideas there, and there very much was kind of one direction. I think they have a little more structure now, and they seem to be a little more democratic than they were in 2020. So I know I personally feel a little more comfortable with it. I think it's probably at this point, probably an avenue that we should approach. I want to, open the floor and kind of hear what others have to say about it.
I think they're going to, from what I've seen in various suggestions for legislation, they're going to play a role.
Yep.
In the future of, they're going to be a voice for the CUDs to some extent. Given that, I think it's important that we have our voice in that organization.
Yep.
So I agree that while there may have been some hesitancy early on, I think this is the time for us to join.
I also agree with Everett, and also the fact that the power and numbers be off for us in general, working to the same cause, the open fiber, the competition. We want to have competition. And that's where we have, that's the buying power for us, right? That's what our selling point is. We want to have that, we want to be able to provide the community with that, where if it goes in other directions, it's utility held or however it may choose to be, or gets privatized. This, I just think we need, if we join in with the P.E.G, we'll have a stronger team by numbers, but we're all fighting for the same cause, same purpose. Am I true to form when I say that P.E.G it's trying to do the exact same this platform as we're doing for the most part?
I would not say the exact same, but in the same direction.
Because
they're depending on the CUD, they do have some differences. Not everyone completely agrees with the open access model. Not everyone agrees with the type of business structure.
right.
So there definitely is some differences based on the CUD, but I think definitely at the state level and with the legislators, I think there's definitely some benefits that at this point can definitely continue to have our voices heard. There's nothing that they're not going to be a governing body. They're not going to dictate what any one CUD is going to do. But I think, as you said, collectively having a greater voice is going to be important going forward.
So my only concern is, this is Tara, is like I listened in on a couple of those meetings, and then they started holding like votes and things, and I'm like, so if we're going to join VCUDA, we need a person and make it like maybe a committee of 2 or 3 people that can sit down on those meetings. And then are we going to give them voting power on behalf of Northwest, or how is that going to work? Because it might be something that they discuss then and be like, oh yeah, let's do that. And then you're like, well, wait a second here. We haven't even brought this back to our group yet. So that's my concern.
Yeah, generally they, similar to our board, they operate in the same way. I don't think they wouldn't vote on something just out of the blue. They would allow members to take it back to their boards and discuss it. But I think we probably should. I'm technically was probably the original person to attend those meetings. I can probably be one of the individuals to go. I don't know if anyone else is interested.
Yeah, I can too.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
right,
think like,
I forgot you used to attend those with me as well.
Yeah, yeah, and then we kind of stopped, but and then just whoever, if we have a committee of 2 or 3, then somebody just kind of give a synopsis and a report back from that meeting.
Yeah, I think making basically a VCUDA update as a mainstay in our agenda would be good, Emily.
Yeah.
Going forward, I can. I think it's maybe Kristen Fountain might be kind of the administrator for VCUDA, so I can reach out to her and what is the
and not to limit, if we get 10 people that want to go on listen, that's great, but we should have consistency with at least a couple.
Right.
Yeah, and I know they have, sorry.
That's okay. I was just gonna say, I'm more than willing to be a third too. I know I probably couldn't always hit all the meetings, but I could hit a lot of them.
Yep.
Yeah, they are every other week at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. And also, I believe, Sean, I'm sure when you reach out to Kristen, they have a formal resolution they'll want this board to pass for entry into VCUDA.
Okay.
Yeah, they have bylaws now, correct? So it's probably in the bylaws.
I believe now at this time they've, I think right at the end of the year they might have adopted bylaws finally, and You know, and they actually have some officers, whereas previously it was ship driven. A little bit different now. So yeah, I'll reach out to Kristen and we will start the process to formally join the CUDA, and we'll ensure that we'll have some representation at the meetings.
All right, I'll move that we authorize Sean to proceed with having Northwest CUD join the CUDA.
I second it.
Motion made by Everett, seconded by Mary Kay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay. Anything else on partnerships? I don't believe so. Okay. Member updates. Nothing here from Enosburg. Heather.
Montgomery, the select board talked about trying to come up with letters of recommendation for even from the town's perspective. And so I'll work with the select board on that. Letters of recommendation for the USDA grant.
Yep.
So I got a question about a letter, because ideally my job was saved as well as a few others in town, and it would be saved more if we'd had better internet at one of their houses now during this whole COVID thing. But the office is in Colchester, so it's not in here, but we are here. We are. So there's so many scenarios of this right now that I got hit up when I requested a lot of personal messages like, hey, here's my story. And I get it. We have saved individual you know, and we could increase that and allow for more remote for a lot of businesses, and people could work from home if they had it. So unfortunately, it's not a business per se in here, and the scenarios are weird, but I did have a lot of feedback on that. And I was like, if there's ever a way that we can transpose this to help a grant, let me know. I've got people, you know, because it's exactly what it's doing for us in the rural area.
I think I would, correct me if I'm wrong, Emily. I think in this case, the letters that we're seeking is specifically from local businesses, but I think probably as a part of our narrative for the grant, we can definitely work in that, you know, increase of remote work access.
Yeah, and if you have kind of information from people, it's always grateful to say, you know, X number of people contacted us. They were saying things like this. Yeah, I think that it would have to be from a business, and you might be able to work it in if it was a business, a small business that, if it was the business, even if it was outside of the district, but their employees were working remotely, you might be able to work that in. I believe that every town in Vermont is considered rural except for Burlington and South Burlington, I want to say. I'm maybe Winooski. Most of Vermont is considered rural, even what we think of as the cities. But yeah, for this one, it kind of has to be from that business perspective, but it's always helpful to have that. And it's always helpful to keep those people in the back of our minds as well.
Exactly. That's a lot of what for our area is about, because we don't have the St. Albans business. Even Enosburg, you guys have, you know, bigger businesses there that we don't have.
Nonprofits as well.
Yeah.
Yes, in Fairfax, I reached out to our town manager, Brad, and select board, Amber, and didn't really get very far. Email blast. So I was pretty naive. They don't have a list of all the businesses. So Mary Kay kind of bailed me out with Fairfax Professional Business Association on Facebook. So then I heard back from Brad that he would provide letters to those, but I worked it 2 days pretty hard and I went nowhere with it. So
can we blast it out on VT Grandpa?
I would love to see. We're working that angle. VT Grandpa is getting fixed right now. I actually have the rec park director fixing VT Grandpa. MK is an engineer in cellular and telecommunications, not HTML.
Yeah. And those of you that don't know, VT Grandpa in Fairfax was probably the first front porch forum in the state of Vermont.
That was my daddy, and I'm maintaining it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to give it love, get it revived, get it so the pictures can be worked. So he's doing that plus his real job right now on the side. So when we can, don't you worry, it'll be back up in full medium, but we can't even add pictures right now.
So from where I'm at in Alberg, having places to contact is not the issue. It's that no one is stepping up. And I know that it's not uncommon in political arenas and, P.E.G and to this extent too, that it wouldn't be unusual for letters to be written for people and then just go, here, sign it. And I was asked to do that by somebody that I sent my request to, and I said, F you. If you don't care enough, I'm not going to care harder than you. And it's a little surprising and discouraging that an issue that is this critical to our survival, people won't bother to write, a paragraph. So, we've got 3 letters. 2 of them came from me and my wife who own businesses. A third came from somebody who's been very active and supportive in my community and really doing a lot. He came up, and others who I really expected, they said they would and they didn't. And it's tough not to get really cynical about this and go, what am I doing here?
Right.
And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because I see the same faces every 2 weeks. I know the volume of emails that are going through with Sean and Emily and Sean, and I can hear how engaged you all are. But at some point, what I tell my clients, and I've been saying it for a long time, is if I care harder than you, I'm out. And that's how I'm starting to feel.
Yeah. I will, so over the last couple of weeks, I made my rounds sharing the survey results with the boards in town. Pretty unenthusiastic response, honestly. And Sean and I had a discussion the other day. I think maybe it's a case of just, COVID drag. We're a year in, people have learned to adapt a little bit. It's not as, to some, it might not be as pressing of an issue as it once was a year ago. I think there could be some of that. I think one of the things, later here shortly, as we look into the subcommittees, the marketing PR group can look at is some consumer education pieces. Why should people care? Why should communities care about this? And we need to do, we did a little bit of that, but not a lot. And we need to do it for more. We need to provide some, resident education on why this is an important matter to them and why they should care. I think there's definitely a change in attitude through the year, that the level of interest, this was on, you could call into, at one point you could call into any single, Sean will tell you, you could call into any single state call, regardless of the organization, the department, what they were working on. Broadband always found its way into the discussion almost every time. It was like, and that was honestly part of the push to create the CUD in the first place. Was it was so prevalent in every conversation, and now it's less and less. And I think people are just kind of like, it kind of is what it is, and we've learned to adjust. I think there's a lot of that.
Best way to change people's ideas is to find the people who didn't get the internet and get them talking and keep them updated about what is or isn't happening and get them to go to the board, and then it'll start talking again. That's my personal advice. Squeaky wheel. And there are plenty of them in my community alone. I just know people I could call and be like, hey, we need your support. And unfortunately, they didn't meet our criteria for what we needed today, but in future stuff, they'll be there because they need the internet, or they barely have internet, you know, and they can't, their kid has to do their Zoom meeting, so they can't work while their kid's on a Zoom meeting because they'll take it down.
Yep.
That is not acceptable. You know, we've got to be able to have this for, and that's where they're forgetting about it, because you know, the majority have something now in some crappy fashion, or they have to reboot 12 times a day. And, you know, so I think we just need to get those people to remind those people why we still need to continue.
Yeah, if the grant asked for letters of support from school officials and school families, I mean, it would be like the North Pole at Christmas. We would have a million letters.
Yep.
Agreed.
A billion, but that's not this grant.
Yep.
And parents that can't do work while their kids doing their work.
Right. So when my husband and I both have meetings, we can't do that here. And if one of us is on Zoom, the other one cannot do anything on the internet. I have to unplug my network extender tower because that's too much. We have to put our phones and whoever's not on the meeting's computer on airplane mode or turn them off.
Wow.
And you know, my download is 3 or around 3. Sometimes it's not quite 3.
I
So
remember.
Chair, while you're chiming in, anything happening in Richford that we need to know about?
yeah, I reached out to all the businesses that I had an email address for, and that was about, I think, probably 12, because I haven't been in this job very long, and so I haven't collected all the contact data I'd like to have. And I sent individual emails out so spam filters wouldn't take them, and I could send a personal message. And I think I got 4 letters from Richford, to include from the library, talking about how many people are using the Wi-Fi at the library because they don't have it at home, and they're trying to conduct business from the Wi-Fi at the library or on the library computers. I actually got to the point where I was kind of nagging another business person who said they would do it early on, and then I don't think they ever stepped up. And as recently as yesterday, I was like, so just checking in, you said you were doing it, so I really appreciate it. But I think I only got 3 or 4 letters. And you know, I think there's a lot to what Sean said about people being, you know, we've been in a pandemic for a year. We've been through winter, and people have either been just dragging, trying to survive, or they're like, oh my God, suddenly it's summer and they're outside. So people are a little crazy right now, but the reality is it takes a lot of time and effort until you hit a critical mass.
Tara, how's Georgia?
Georgia's apparently not doing as well as we hoped. I think they lost communication.
All right. Well, if Tara comes back, we can have her do her
I know.
piece.
I'll say, I know for Georgia, their election, Carolyn Brannigan's on the select board now.
That is great news.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to public service update. Oh, we were gonna do.
I'm here, guys. Sorry, I couldn't get my head. I was away from my phone. I couldn't get my headphone to unmute. So, yeah, I don't have a lot of updates. Carolyn has joined, and Carl Rosenquist had reached out to me too, but I just got his voicemail today. We're in the process of moving, and we had lost our access to our voicemail, so I just got it back. So I'm going to reach out to him and see if there's anything that you know, questions that he had, and maybe what he could do as well. So that's good, but that's the only update I have.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
I did want to address subcommittees. So we had determined 3 subcommittees. We had early on had some difficulties filling those. I think it's probably due that we address that. Probably not this evening, but we likely need to probably assign a lead for each one of those committees. And hopefully, my hope is that each member tries to sign up for one of them. I mean, these don't need to be like, you know, our every 2 week meetings, but I think we need to, you know, divide and conquer some. I know I barely made this work before, and now with a newborn, things are off the charts. So I think we need to look at, probably at our next meeting, you know, having everyone step up and try to commit to one of the subcommittees so we can start to divide and conquer. I think we're, you know, I talked about some marketing and outreach efforts. You know, we have, you know, Emily has been doing the grunt work and all the, you know, finance and grant stuff that we can do, but we need a group to start to really tackle that stuff more, to take some of that off of her plate. And then as well as we look into, you know, as we come to completion with our feasibility, the operations subcommittee can probably step in now, honestly, and start to handle some of those meetings that are currently happening with Matrix as they're working through their feasibility and keeping them on track. Right now, that's myself, Emily, and Sean who are handling those calls to keep them on the road.
So yeah, and Sean, if I could just interrupt you for 1 second, because we do have some new people that may not be familiar with the subcommittees.
Yep.
So we do have the communications subcommittee, finance, and project management and operations. Those are the 3 subcommittees we currently have.
So think about it. Again, I would like everyone to try to step up and join one of those, the subcommittees. Once you're a part of it, you can make that determination. I would like to see them meet hopefully once a month. Make that determination on, each group can make the determination when they want to meet and what works for them. But I think we need to get those groups underway, and we need to start to divide up some of the workload of what's happening. I think early on, you know, as we were adding stuff in, and now that we have some new members, some eager folks, it would be good to readdress those groups and to start to you know, divvy up the workload some. So by next meeting, think about it again, as Sean said, communications, finance, and then operations or project management are the 3 groups. So think about it, which ones would be of interest. And again, I think it would be good to kind of have a lead in each one of those subcommittees to provide kind of a report back to the greater group during these the full board meeting.
We'll help you guys when with these subcommittees form. We'll help you with, you know, setting up your meetings and getting the ball rolling and help you orchestrate them a little bit. You know, we won't just throw you out to the sharks. For those of you that may not have experience on subcommittees, I know there's some new people. I don't know what everybody's background experience is. I think most of you have been on a subcommittee at one point in your life because you're here.
Well, PMO is definitely my area.
Write it down.
But as for leading, I've got a lot of big changes coming up. So
duly noted.
I'm all about being a team player on that, but I cannot hold that stick on a regular basis, but I could definitely chip in.
I think it's a case of what I mean by leading. I think it's a case of just kind of leading those discussions, as well as just kind of, you know, having a lead person to report back to the greater group,
right,
in the meeting. Okay.
We also had Dominic, Everett, and Sean. You were on the PMO.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Previously identified. I don't know if that was when we were back in August or September or whenever it was.
Petition before, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've got to get caught up.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind if I give a quick update on just some process stuff for the CD?
Go for it.
Sure, yeah, which is that May is the annual board meeting. It's going to be second Tuesday. That's in statute. And preceding that by the last Monday in April, all of the CUD representatives and alternates will need to be reappointed by the select board. So I will send out a form for that, but it is important that you get on your local select board agenda before that last Monday in April. I know, if you meet twice a month, either second or fourth, right? To get your reappointed. There's no term limits or anything like that. So long as the select board is happy with you continuing to be the rep or alt, there's no need to make a change, just reaffirm for that next year.
Yeah, in Georgia, we just added it right to our reorg, so we've already done it, but I'll just have them send it over to you.
Same.
Great,
Yeah. Once the resolution's done, please have the clerk send it to Sean.
Yeah,
I know
we're missing a few.
Yeah, a mixed bag of whether or not we have the resolutions or not. Okay, anything else, Emily?
Nope, that was it, other than annual meeting coming up. Again, it will be re-election of chair and vice chair. Again, there's no term limits, so it's up to the CD.
And the insurance policy isn't until September,
Yeah.
October, correct? Okay.
Ways out. Okay, any other business? Public comment. Steve, I think you're the only one.
Yeah, thanks. Steve Whitaker from Montpelier. I'd like to make a couple of comments. Some of you may have seen last week was Sunshine Week in the press, and one of the 7 Days reporters did a piece that was shared around having to do with Consolidated, and they've announced this in House Energy and Tech too. Their Consolidated is requiring CUD boards to sign non-disclosure agreements prior to talking to them about what they might, could, or would do if they were chosen as a partner. And that raises a real kind of a quagmire, because in effect, the members that would enter such a non-disclosure agreement are not even allowed to go and tell the select board members who appointed them what is being proposed and whether or not it's good for the community. So I think it's an area that really needs to be explored. Similarly, I don't know if it's changed or not. VCUDA, FX was adamant that the files and the meetings were not open. But yet their own lawyer, they consulted Paul Giuliani, he said, yes, that you have to be. So I would just be cautious and be aware of these issues, because they could really come back to bite or erode public trust in what's up. What was the other one? Something just slipped my mind. I hear mention of open access study. I don't know whether that's related to the Alberg project or related to a different grant that you're pursuing. But that's something that has gotten zero attention in the legislature. The CUDs apparently are suggesting they can't live if they have to compete, that they need the monopoly to get off the ground. And yet the statutory goals of competitive choice and of open access and shared infrastructure should be what's prevailing. It should even be conditions on the funding. Mobile wireless and public safety grade communications are other areas that need to be on the agenda, even though they may be inconvenient for CUDs to get their head around right now. But they also in the long run, they turn into revenue centers to keep a CUD viable. But I've written a paper, I think I've shared it with Sean. I'm not sure which Sean, if you have to, that basically raises the specter that we could be, in effect, setting up these CUDs for failure, because we're not letting CUDs use public funding to go into areas that already have cable. And so you're going to have to redesign the service area multiple times, once for the unserved areas. But if you fail in the interim, Consolidated or Comcast will probably be happy to buy your infrastructure. But that's another story. Tilson has raised the warning flag of having gotten millions of dollars to build in St. Johnsbury, Lunenburg, and Danville. And word got around that they were considering selling already. And the legislature got very alert that they need to put clawback provisions on these grants so that a private entity can't take a grant and then flip it for pure profit. But open access is something that probably merits a, half an hour at one of your meetings and try to define it. But where it really makes the difference, and it'll make a big difference in the economics of your whole, if we can establish open access to the fiber that's owned by Consolidated, especially up in your towns, the federal government does not require that they share it, has exempted them from having to share it, but their incentive regulation plan expires this coming July. And so if we do get into the 10-year telecom plan, I heard no mention of participating in the 10-year telecom plan, which is underway right now. And the department has the authority to require information from the carriers on where their infrastructure is under 202D. But if we were able to get organized and get into the 10-year telecom plan that shared fiber is necessity across the whole state, then when Consolidated comes back in for regulatory review of their incentive reg plan, which they really need to keep their secrets in their contracts, etc., it has to be measured by the Public Utilities Commission against the 10-year plan for consistency. So that may be our best leverage to establish open access to Consolidated's infrastructure, which would then make a lot less building and a lot less debt and a lot more affordable internet rates. I'm kind of shocked at the rates that people are proposing CUDs could charge when you can buy VTEL for $60 a month for a gigabit per second, and everybody's nickel and diming people for the jump from 100 to 200 megabit. Consolidated is running roughshod right now all over Montpelier, all over Brattleboro. No permits, blocking streets, blocking sidewalks, pulling up manholes, climbing every pole. It's a mess, and it could be on your doorstep soon too. They've committed to building fiber to the prem to their entire service area here in the next, which raises one more thing to alert you to. There's not going to be any vendors, any fiber builders available because Usda is fully committed to Consolidated and can't hire enough people in from Texas and Florida and wherever to service that demand. So CUDs are going to be extremely hard pressed to even find somebody to build small pieces of fiber, making it more necessary to consider the open access model. That's probably enough for now without an invite or a preparation.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, let's moving on. Looks like we need to go into executive discussion. Sorry, I'm tired. We need to go into executive session to discuss consultant selections for USDA Rural Business Development Grant. Give me one moment. After making a specific finding that premature public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage, referencing contracts with a potential vendor with the USDA Rural Business Development Grant. So therefore, we need to go into executive session and bring along our NRPC counterparts. So I will accept a motion and please state it as such.
So moved.
So moved what? You gotta say it, Everett.
Yeah. That we enter into executive sessions for the grounds previously described.
And you have to invite Sean and Emily.
and invite our NRPC consultants.
Thank you. And a second?
A second.
Motion made to enter executive session made by Everett, seconded by Mary Kay. Any further discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep,
Oh.
we're good to go.
Motion now.
Yep, someone make the motion.
I'll
Uh,
make the motion.
You have to state it.
Oh, I forgot it. That's what I was going to ask you to do, is to write it in chat for me.
To forego the RFP process and to pre-select a consultant for the USDA Rural Business Development Grant. You don't have to.
I repeat what Sean said, and do I have to actually say it?
No, you're fine.
Okay, good. Thank you. It's too late at night for me.
And a second?
I would second Heather's motion.
Motion to forego the RFP and pre-select the consultant for the USDA Rural Business Development Grant made by Heather, seconded by Brenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Approved. Okay. I think we're done. Anything else?
I am thinking of how I had offered if there was a very short list of questions that would be useful for me to learn the answers to by asking my contact on the House Energy and Technology Committee. I don't think I saw any questions, and I'm sure, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was about the distribution of funds, whether it was going to be by the mile or it was going to be equally parsed out between the CUDs or what. So I can do that if I get written questions, a very short list. And I can't promise answers because I believe that bill is in the Senate right now, but the House and the Senate, when they do committee of conference, you know, I can probably get a sense of how committed to what, if there are differences in the bill drafts.
Thank you.
Karen, I had sent out an email about it. I don't think that I got any emailed questions back from my recollection.
Yeah, I saw your email when you sent that out.
Brenda?
Yeah, just a quick aside. I apologize if I slept through it. Did we talk about GMP and the co-op and the grant or anything?
We didn't mention it.
Okay. Could we put that on the next agenda to review that?
Be good. And what that means for us.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Anything else? Last chance. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Who was first?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Sorry, Sean, you can't give the motion out, can you? You just give the idea for the motion.
Entertain a motion.
I have to go castrate lambs. I'm in a hurry.
Oh, Vermont. Motion made by Mary Kay, seconded by
I'll second.
Heather. Sharon. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by stating aye.
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 Sound unanimous. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.
Easy.